Well, before we start, I think before we get into the episode proper, I think it's time for me to announce um, that I will be returning to the Marvel universe. It has nothing to do with a giant dump truck full of money. It's just because I really want to play a new character in the Marvel universe, and I think that um, the opportunity to play um, um, um,
In light of the breaking news about Robert Downey Jr. coming back to Marvel, it set off a chain reaction in Hollywood. I don't know if
yeah.
you heard that Sam Neill's coming back as the voice of T-Rex in the next Jurassic Park movie.
It's a good thing I didn't just write an article where I called Marvel creatively bankrupt because I would look really silly right now, wouldn't I?
It's an unforced error, in my opinion. I don't really understand. There's so much more to lose than there is to gain from this.
just, just
And it
whatever,
just gets
folks.
crazier the more I hear about it. Like you alluded to the dump truck of money, and it said that like the Russos are getting $80 million to
Yeah.
direct these two movies, and Downey Jr. is getting significantly more.
Yes.
And he demanded that the Russos come back, otherwise he wouldn't do it.
God bless him. God, he's got his Oscar now, and he's just like, fuck it, who cares?
But he's like, if you want me to be Doctor Doom, I'm gonna need a lot more money.
It's like a pretty good Downey. I didn't know you had a Downey.
I didn't know that I had a Downey either, but I tried it. He's just like, I was Iron Man, but that was past lives, different story. Now I'm Doctor Doom, and Hall H is gonna eat it up. This is like when people get promotions at work. It's like I get just as excited when I realize I can do a different voice. Why are we here? It's Kings of Summertime, which is this is the second year that we've done this, and it's become like one of my favorite bits that we have on
Yeah.
our reserve seating calendar. So you picked Stephen King's Thinner, directed by Tom Holland of Fright Night,
Hmm.
1985, and Child's Play fame. I went to meet Tom Holland at a convention once, and I had a Thinner 11 by 17 poster. Totally thought I would get a Thinner anecdote, and he did not give me anything.
This is my first time seeing Thinner, and I have not read this novel. This is one of the Bachman books. I haven't read
Yeah,
this one yet. I'm saving a lot of the Bachman stuff. You know we can kind of get into it. You said you've seen this one before.
many
Many
times. Yeah,
times. Yeah, yeah. This is the first watch for me. And Tom Holland, a guy who I think like for this particular run of King or these particular stories where he's doing these sort of like Twilight Zoney kind of, like Tales from the Crypty kind of morality plays, like these little short ones that
yeah.
are very like B movie energy. They're very campy and stuff like that. I think Tom Holland's a great choice director wise for something like this. I think his sensibilities are perfect for this specific kind of Stephen King story. I had a great time with Thinner. I mean, it's a B movie, but like it's mean spirited in all the right ways. I think the performances are really goofy and fun. It was it has fright it has no fright well it has Fright Night energy, but it also has Creepshow energy to it.
Mhm.
So I had a great time with it.
I'm glad to hear that. I've always been a fan of the movie. I always felt kind of weird liking it as much as I do because I don't know many fans of the movie, and especially when it came out, it was considered like one of the worst Stephen King adaptations. I don't know how the novel was received, but
Yeah.
yeah, it just chalked up as being like mean spirited and kind of worthless in the canon of Stephen King. But I really enjoy the ones like I know Frank Darabont changed the ending of The Mist to make it even more nihilistic than it was, but I really like just when and The Mist has some quote unquote good people in it, but in Thinner there's nobody who's
No, there's
really
no
like
good people in this movie. No,
redeemable.
no.
And it kind of allows you as a storyteller to just like really let it rip because
Yes.
it doesn't really matter. Like you've got protagonists, but there's nobody who are like innocent victims with the exception of like his young daughter.
And even
But
she's the criminal for that Brando impression.
All right, her Brando impression or my Downey Jr.
I'll take your Downey Jr. any day.
That is a good choice, sir. And I think that the movie has like really tremendous makeup effects.
Yeah, yeah.
He's always Robert John Burke is always believably fluctuating in weight. I think in 1996 they perfected the fat suit technology between this and the Nutty
The
Professor.
professor, yeah, it's true. Does
Um,
does the Nutty Professor have a really nuanced and sensitive Joe Mantegna performance in it though? Like a really good, like accurate depiction of an Italian American? Because as an Italian American myself, I really appreciated Mantegna's performance in this. We have to do a Joe Mantegna corner because I love him.
let's do the Joe Mantegna corner here because he's reserve seating royalty
One of the
with Searching
best.
for Bobby Fischer. But
One of the
it's like
best.
it's like he came out of the recording booth for The Simpsons for his
Yeah.
mobster character and said, I could go bigger.
What I've always loved about Joe Mantegna and what I've always loved about Chaz Palminteri in the same vein is they're the guys you get when you can't get De Niro, you can't get Pacino, you can't even get Harvey Keitel. So,
Yeah.
and I think these guys know it, but I think that they've put together both of them, but specifically Mantegna, since we're talking about him, has put together such a good and interesting and worthwhile career, and he's always giving even in this ridiculous part, he is just like he's totally aware of the part he's playing. He knows what movie he's in, and he knows
Mm-hmm.
exactly how to pitch the performance. And he just, boy, does he add to this picture. It really does.
I really enjoy the fact that he's set up at the beginning as being like a John Gotti type, where he's like a criminal kingpin,
Mhm.
but he has no underlings apparently. And he's just like, I'm gonna go ahead and do the shootouts
I
myself.
was I was rewatching a little bit of The Sopranos recently, and then when I watched this, I was like, man, he's got no like capos, he's got no
Yeah.
button men. He's the boss, and he just does it himself. I love it.
Just there's the scene where Robert John Burke is wasting away in his car and he goes, "You really love this stuff, doesn't?" And he's just like, "I fucking love this." It's so great. I was always wondering why I always anticipate Joe Mantegna ending every sentence with counselor, and I think it's because of this movie.
Yeah.
It's like I want to become a lawyer just so I could hear him say counselor at the end of every sentence.
Back to what you're saying about like there being no good people in this movie. So much of what I've read, and I haven't read as much Stephen King this summer as I did last summer. Last summer was my big Stephen King summer. This
Yeah.
year, kind of on and off, I've been reading a lot of political biographies because dad, I guess. Um, the mean spiritedness is like so much in keeping with this kind of King story. Like his stories
Yeah.
are mean spirited. Like so much of the Darabont has really sanded off a lot of the edges of a lot of his adaptations.
Mm,
A movie. This is how a lot of these stories read. You know, especially Bachman. You know, which has again I haven't read a lot of the Bachman, but I know that was where he was kind of taking the gloves off. You know, if he
yeah.
had any gloves and was kind of just doing things that were a little bit more sci-fi, a little bit more mean-spirited. And this is totally like in keeping with the sensibilities that I often complain about with King adaptations, which is like they don't read the same on the screen or they don't have the same sensibilities. This is exactly in keeping with the kind of story that King would tell in exactly the way that he would tell it.
Yeah, I really like how well this movie's aged too. Not that this wasn't an issue in the 90s, but like it's certainly white male privilege.
100%.
And it's very resonant today and like just the levels of corruption and cover-ups to protect one of their quote unquote own. But yeah, everybody's terrible, which kind of like makes it easier to go down. It takes the burden off of everyone. And also this is the movie that I discovered Michael Constantine from, who
Mm-hmm.
later became a beloved character actor for me because he was the dad in My Big Fat Greek Wedding. And I don't know. It's very difficult for me to watch this movie without doing Michael Constantine and Joe Mantegna impersonation. I need something for my nose. Yeah, I love that the movie settles on let's have a pie curse
Yeah,
at the end.
let's have a pie curse. Let's have the inciting incident be a blowjob in a car that the husband later gives the wife shit for,
Yeah.
which I thought was real brave in the context of a marriage.
Well, that's what makes it so great is just like, yeah, you're everybody's terrible, like especially
Everybody's
this
terrible.
protagonist. Like you want bad things to happen to him because he's a fucking jerk, even under the structure of who should be his support system. He's the worst. Do you think I think I know the answer to this, but do you think like his wife is cheating on him?
Oh, like every day, like every
Yeah.
day. And by the way, totally support it. Totally support it. He's an asshole. I'm not slut shaming her in any way. She should go out and get it. I absolutely appreciate it.
I just love this movie. I love the sense of, like it's like with all Stephen King movies. It's got
Right.
such a good like sense of place to it. It's paramount. It feels like you're opening up like a musty old book. It's just
Totally.
like such a good time. I really, really enjoy this movie a lot. I hope people who didn't like it back in the 90s give it another chance because I think it's aged really well.
Yeah, in the context of like understanding that it's a B movie, understanding that it's got racially insensitive depictions in it, understanding that nobody in the movie is likable. Like you have to be on the movie's wavelength to I think to think of it the way we do. But I
Yeah.
think, we watch enough movies and you have enough distance from this, now almost 30 years later, that we can say like, this is definitely a worthwhile entry in the King canon. It's way too low on all the lists I've seen of adaptations. It's way too low on the lists. Again, just because not only Tom Holland's particular talents and sensibilities, but we talk about Darabont and we talk about other people have adapted him like Stanley Kubrick or whatever. I think that like so much of the missing pieces that I've really longed for in adaptations that aren't Darabont or aren't somebody who's really nailed it, Flanagan. Um, Holland's got like one specific avenue where he really hits it, and I think I wish he had done more.
Oh
All
man.
right,
Good
so
movie.
good one. We have
Good one.
another Kings of Summer entry next week, though.
We
Your
are
pick.
back next week with what I think, I won't say underrated, but I will say the most underseen Stephen King adaptation. I think it's an amazing movie called The Night Flyer, which debuted on HBO in 97. It's a Miguel Ferrer movie.
Mhm.
Um, it's not readily available as far as I know, but you can find a full version of it on YouTube. So if you want to watch that in advance of us reviewing it next week, check it out there. And then I bought a copy of it on eBay, so you can do that too. So until next time,
These seats are reserved. I don't have it down, but I can do this. I can do his arm thing that he does.
imagine if I voiced Kermit the Frog, it wouldn't be that different.